In this presentation, we will briefly discuss considerations for working in multicultural environments. Of course, not all of you will be in the Houston area because this is an online program. But for those of you in the Houston area, we know that Houston is a very diverse city where many cultures are represented, and we have an opportunity every day to learn about cultural differences that exist between different groups of people. And for those of you who are not in the Houston area, I encourage you to find the multicultural groups within your area to learn more about different cultures that exist so that you can be a better human service professional and provide the most excellent services for your clients, no matter what their cultural background. First, let's explore what is culture. The textbook glossary defines culture as aspects of being human. This definition is in no way comprehensive, and so another definition that can be found is that a culture is a way of life for a group of people, the behaviors, beliefs, values, and symbols that they accept, generally without thinking about them, and that are passed along by communication and imitation from one generation to the next. Each one of us comes from our own cultures. So the first thing we're going to explore is being aware of your culture. When we discuss culture, there are several things to consider. This graphic shows an iceberg with a few things that are above the top of the water and several things that are below the surface that are not as easy to see. The things that are easy to see about culture are food and art and language and behaviors and clothing and celebrations. If you think about your own culture or a culture that is different from your own, many times you can see that culture and distinguish it by these things. For me, I was born in Puerto Rico. My parents were not Puerto Rican, they were from the United States, but they were stationed over there with a company that they were working for. But I grew up enjoying Puerto Rican food, speaking Spanish on the streets of Puerto Rico, being part of a large community of people, wearing clothing that was authentic to Puerto Rico, and celebrating all of the holidays, including Three Kings Day, which is a very big celebration in Puerto Rico. Underneath the surface, though, there are other considerations for culture. These include values, customs, status, roles, rules, thought patterns, beliefs, perceptions, and traditions. Many times these are passed down from generation to generation by grandparents and parents to the children. Another consideration is multicultural competence. This is referred to as fluency in more than one culture, in which cultures are a part of your surroundings. In this example, there are sometimes people that are able to code switch and go between more than one culture. So in my example, I was born in Puerto Rico, and I grew up loving the food, the people, the culture of Puerto Rico for the first 5 years of my life, and even developing an affinity for the language. Shortly after my 5th birthday, we moved back to the United States, and I was raised in a traditional Anglo-Caucasian home. I'm able to function in both settings fairly fluently. Then, after college, I did postgraduate work at an HBCU, a historically black college or university. I attended for 6 graduate classes and received my teaching certification. During that time, I was the only white male in my classes, and my classes were about 60 people. It was a very eye-opening experience, and I learned so much about myself and my culture that I came from and the culture that I was assimilating into during that year of earning my teaching certification at the HBCU that I attended. To this end, I didn't know what I didn't know. Many times there are people who don't see the differences that exist between cultures and try to treat everybody equally. While everyone should be treated with respect, It is also important to understand that a person's culture, their background, and their family will influence the kind of treatment they receive and how they will respond as a client. And so it's important not only to know that you don't know the culture and background that all of your clients will come from, but that the culture and background they come from can be a strength from which they draw in order to have the best possible outcomes for whatever services you're providing to them. Another thing that many people are not aware of is that there are many microaggressions, microassaults, micro-insults, and micro-invalidations. These are all things that happen on a subconscious level, where there are certain things that are built into our society, built into our language, built into the way that we interact with the world, that put down on, degrade, or make it more difficult for people of a different culture to be successful. And so it's important to be aware of these. These are not terms that are expressly discussed in your textbook, but they are important terms for you to explore and learn more about and to know about, because many times we partake in microaggressions without even realizing that we're part of this the system. So even if you're from a minority culture, sometimes you can have micro insults towards another culture that is different from your own. So it's important to be aware that not all multicultural differences are known, that sometimes the problems that occur when working with people of different cultures happen on a subconscious level, and for us to bring the subconscious into our conscious so we can be more deliberate about the way we incorporate culture into the treatment and services that we provide as human service professionals. So the first step of this is awareness, knowing who you are, knowing the culture from which you come, knowing the people from which you come, and the life from which you come. In that first slide, or the first definition slide about culture, I talked about beliefs and values. What are your beliefs and values? What have been transmitted through your family? To be aware of those so that you know who you are and you know the lens through which you look at all of your clients. And I'm not asking you to take the lens off, but I am asking you to be aware of the cultural biases that you have or the cultural influences that you have walking into your profession. Next are weaknesses. As discussed with the microaggressions, micro-insults, micro-assaults, micro-invalidations, sometimes we are not even aware of our biases. There are several perception studies or bias studies that are available for free online, and you can take them and it will flash pictures up, and when you take these pictures and you respond to them and you click your feelings about the picture as it flashes up, you only have 1 or 2 seconds to respond. You can see pretty quickly if you have a bias towards one culture or against a culture, and it's actually some pretty amazing research. I think it originated out of Harvard. Finally, growth. Don't be happy to just sit where you are, but push yourself to grow and to learn more and to be exposed to more cultures and to incorporate more cultures into the world in which you live. Just as I wanted to learn more and attended a historically black college or university, it is important for others to also step out and to experience other cultures. I'm not saying you need to go get a degree from a different kind of institution. What I am saying is next time you have the opportunity to be with someone that is different than you, take that opportunity and really try to learn about that person and their culture and their background. Maybe eat at some different restaurants, maybe attend some different festivals, maybe expose yourself to some different kinds of people. And as you grow personally, it will help you be a better professional and help you grow professionally and being a multiculturally competent human service professional.